Great road trip for the Mets. They're playing good baseball. They're back within 2 games of 500 again. But the Edwin Diaz story is going to be a very big one here. Not just ejected for tonight's game, but that comes with an automatic 10-game suspension. So let's begin there, Todd. And what did you make of what you saw?
Well, it's unfortunate because there was so much good that happened in that game that we had to talk about. You looked at those cliff notes, and a lot of great things happened, and this is going to overshadow them, and we don't really know all the facts at this point. What we do know is that the umpires always check the relievers when they come out prior to them taking the mound. They checked Edwin, and it looked like right away the first umpire checks it. And usually these kind of things take very, very little time. He's a little bit compelled to ask one of the other umpires, and then they continue to get all of the guys conferred together. I don't think there was anything on his glove. He ended up giving the glove back to him, but they did some, a lot of inspection. They conferred with all of them. They wanted to make sure that they all agreed on it. And at the end of the day, the bad news for the Mets is he was ejected. Whether or not he has an argument, whether or not he thinks that it was normal of what he did and it's felt a little stickier today and it resulted in this, we don't know any of that. And, I think it's a challenging thing. I've always had a problem with this kind of inspection. I've always had a problem with trying to limit the sticky stuff. I think there should be something that is, that is used by the league-wide to give the tact to the pitcher so we don't have to go through this. A very arbitrary process. And you see he's thrown out right there, and Edwin still shaking his head. But at the end of the day, it's a big loss for the Mets because he's a guy that was coming around. We were, the Mets had been anticipating his, sort of return to form, and he's shown some of that return to form recently, and it just, it impacts them. And then it was really unfortunate for me, at least, to watch what ensued after that, because Drew Smith comes in. He's actually cold. He has to take all the time to warm up. He gets a couple outs, and then they visit because of the fact that it looked like maybe he had a little something going on with his arm. He called Alvarez out, and they looked like they might want to take him out. He stayed in there, got through one more batter before they resulted in going to Diekman. But, that's the kind of thing that could result in him not being prepared to go into this game because he wasn't expecting to go into this game, and then that could be another side effect. So just unfortunate to see. And look, we're going to hear all the reaction, but right now, I think Mets fans should be concerned that this is not only for today, but for the 10-game suspension.
Yeah, Mets are off tomorrow, and then, they have that beginning of the Subway Series with the Yankees, and then the Astros. Big games coming up here for the Mets. And as you say, we're going to hear from Carlos Mendoza and plenty more reaction coming up just a little bit. When you mentioned Drew Smith there, he came off the injury list back on the 3rd of June, so he hasn't been back for that long himself, and we'll see what's going on there in just a little bit. So Vic Carapazza is the one who threw Diaz out from the game. And you talk about there's nothing universal here. So, and David Cohn was asked during the course of the broadcast over on ESPN tonight, could that, well, we saw the foreign substance on his hand, could rosin and pelican grip, which is a legal substance that guys use, could it cause that? And David said, yes, it can cause that. So there is this real gray area here.
There is. I mean, you see if guys hit without batting gloves, certainly pine tar and rosin combined can make your hands dark, and you can see some buildup of it. I don't know because I've never used pelican grip with rosin, but it was good to hear David confirm the fact that that can create some of that discoloration on the hands. And clearly, Edwin wasn't concerned about showing that he had some discoloration on the hands and maybe a little bit of buildup there because he's used to going in and knowing that they're going to check him. So if it was just that close-up there that showed what there was with the discoloration and something on the thumb and the forefingers, I don't think it would have been, something that was, if that was the egregious thing, I don't think he's going to be coming out with that on his hand and showing that to the umpire. So, I still think it's very arbitrary. I think at the risk of guys that are throwing 100 miles an hour, I want the guy on the mound to have good tact and good command of his pitches. And if it helps add a little bit of spin rate, so be it. And we've heard, there's so many different sides to this story because the guys, when they're pitching with balls that don't have the tact and every ball's not rubbed up the same way, there is a lot of talk in the last couple of years about the baseballs being slippery and not rubbed up to satisfaction. And so they need a little tact. They have to grip it harder to get the spin rate.
Right.
Guys are getting injured at a higher clip than ever before. So it would be nice to have something that was universal and worked for the pitcher.
And let's not forget about this. When the baseballs changed and they became a little bit more slippery and guys were complaining about it a few years ago, Edwin was one of the guys who said the baseball felt like an ice cube in his hand. He had a really tough time getting a grip. And last year, when two Mets got ejected for sticky stuff, one was Max Scherzer and the other one was Drew Smith, there was a lot of ambiguity, especially with Scherzer out there, because didn't get ejected immediately, then came back out and got ejected.